Hey there, and welcome to Money and You. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. My search for more fulfilling work led me to career and business coaching, where I stumbled upon a game-changing discovery. Money issues often start with our mindset and habits. You see, our relationship with money is the key to overcoming those frustrating financial obstacles. As an entrepreneur, coach, and problem solver, I'm passionate about helping you create a great relationship with money. Because, turns out, that's the foundation for a limit-free life. Each week on Money and You, I speak with amazing guests about all things money, mindset, practical tips, and everything in between. We're here to give you new insights, education, and empowerment so money can be one of your favorite relationships. So join us for some lively conversations and let's transform your financial life together. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Money and You podcast. I am so excited. There's a little pattern that I've noticed with my shows, and that is that when and if I have somebody in the therapy world, a financial therapist, a regular therapist, on the show, it actually gets liked the most or noticed the most or whatever the crazy metrics are. And I have found that to be really interesting because when you think about our money, a lot of what we're trying to do is get rid of the stress and the worry and the anxiety or the conflict around money. And therapists see this all the time, and they see it in depth, in detail. And getting their perspective on how other people are dealing with their money or not dealing with their money, how they're interacting with partners around money, how they're managing that stress is so fascinating and so helpful because, and this isn't about how much money you have. People who have very little, people who have a lot can all be feeling anxiety around money or problems around money. And so today we have a fabulous guest, wonderful speaker and wonderful woman in her profession. I'm going to just read you a little about Bonnie Russo. Bonnie Russo, LCSW QS. We're going to find out what that means, that QS. Bonnie Russo is a licensed clinical social worker, qualified supervisor, psychotherapist, speaker, advocate, and founder of Papillon Health and Wellness. She's also the founder of Bridges to Wellness, a nonprofit organization focused on supporting adults, seniors, and veterans through a teaching-based wraparound model rooted in whole person care. Bonnie's work sits at the intersection of mental health advocacy, financial stability, trauma recovery, and real-life support. As a psychotherapist, she's worked with vastly diverse individuals, families navigating high-conflict divorce, financial abuse, custody stress, grief, trauma, substance use recovery, career transitions, and other life disruptions that deeply impact emotional and financial well-being. So her bio is much longer than that, but I will save that and put it in the show notes. And I want us to get started because I know we're going to have just the most interesting conversation today. Welcome, Bonnie. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation that I feel like it should be had, right? Yes. So I'm so glad. I'm so welcoming this. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I've known you for a little while. I've been wanting to have you on for a long time, and I'm it is true. When I've had some therapists on, people have really glommed on to those shows, which is telling to me. I think we're all in this crazy world that we're living in right now having, it's hard not to have some emotional, psychological problems right now. And I hate calling them problems, but for lack of a better word, but things are crazy. And so financially, things are more challenging potentially than they have been. There's just a lot going on. On the flip side, the options are also increasing, and there are good options for people. There are more ways to get involved in your finances than there ever were, more ways to learn about how to manage things well than there ever were. So it's not that it's all bad, it's just a bit chaotic. So it's chaotic in the world, and it's also chaotic within people's homes and within their own kind of systems. So that's where I think you are brilliant at helping us to see what's going on out there. So I'd love to just pick your brain a little and talk to you about some of the things you're seeing. And your financial life is so interconnected with all the other parts of your life, your health, your well-being, your mental state, all of it. So why don't you, there are some things specifically in your bio that you talk about with respect to finance. Did you choose to address those, or were those things that just sort of started coming to you within your work, and so you made that part of your work?
So yes, right? I chose to address those specifically because there was a time in which I saw personally that there was a lack of education, access, and understanding. And so I've taken my knowledge, my understanding now of the lack of access and the lack of education, and I really want to take that pain and put it into purpose so I can help educate people and have folks have a better understanding for themselves.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that people are very confident talking about their money, even if it's their own money. Some people can, and some people have a really hard time just having a conversation.
Yes, and we spoke about this for just a minute, and I really wanted to get into it into the show because for years I've been saying people have to have conversations around money. That's a huge part of how we learn. I mean, we talk about relationships all day long. We talk about different things in our lives that are so significant, but we avoid talking about money. So, first of all, why are we so avoidant in that area? Is it just old messaging that people shouldn't talk about it? Like, what is it?
So, I mean, I cannot speak for everybody, but I can speak, I've seen some folks, I've seen, a couple people over the years, and the patterns that I see are very consistent, right? Either it was the family system they came from, the culture that they came from, or this idea that my person is going to do the right thing, right? Or do whatever we think is the right thing without ever having that actual conversation, right?
So now you're talking about couples and their
I'm
interaction.
talking about couples, right? So if
Yeah.
one family saw, well, this is how my mom and dad did it, and they just assume that that's how they'll do it, but they've never had that conversation. And maybe your partner didn't grow up that way. Maybe your partner's dad stashed all of his money in the backyard in a can and then took off. We don't know. We don't know, but these folks are getting married and they're making financial decisions and they're building a future, or so they think, together, but they haven't mapped that out. What does that look like?
Yeah, so and it's more, I think, people will say, well, you need to have these premarital conversations about money. Only I think at that stage, that's not the right stage to be having this conversation, in my opinion. Yes, have it, but it needs to continue because what's said when people are brand new, and or even if they're not brand new, but they're in that phase of just about to get married, maybe who knows how old they are. I mean, they may not even be working, at their future jobs yet. Their income levels are going to change, and the interactions with money are certainly going to change. And you can't really anticipate at that stage, like, how are we going to decide on how to invest for retirement or whatever? I mean, don't you find that people would be very much in agreement at that stage and maybe later the problems come up? I don't know.
There's always a chance of we agreed to something in the beginning, but life has changed, we've developed, things have changed, people change.
Yeah.
It might not be the right time to do it. I would figure out before you want to marry somebody, does this person value you and money that you would make, or money or work that you would contribute as equal?
Interesting. And why do you say that?
Value is different.
Yeah, yeah. So the values people have around money, first of all, do you think people are typically clear on what their money values are, especially women?
No, ma'am. No. I think that we do not adequately teach and prepare girls to speak as women, to speak up for themselves in that way. I don't think that we are appropriately trained in finance and function and future and at a young age. I think that historically we have given it to the husband. That's my partner. He takes care of that. He takes care of the bills. I trust him. I do this thing over here. But what I am seeing is that we are not laying eyes on what we're trusting. And I have seen it over and over. You know, the ones that you think are never going to do it to you, they might not, right? But act as if. Protect yourself as if, right?
Yeah.
As if.
And, you know, that's a tough one too, because I think women often, and sometimes men as well, as sort of givers, you know, you feel, it feels wrong to be having all these questions about your partner. Like, if you love them, you wouldn't be, and you believe in them, you wouldn't be questioning whether something could happen later in the financial space. I don't know what you do about that. That's not, you know, that's not the way to go. You do need to question everything, unfortunately, in life.
And so I think those could tie back to somebody else's old beliefs or old ideas that have been passed down.
Okay.
It is okay to ask questions. It is okay to want to understand. It is okay to get educated and to get on the same page as your partner, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we feel bad because it's been ingrained in us to do something different. Be quiet, trust, you know, do your thing, and that's their job. And it has not been effective.
No, it hasn't been effective, and you see that all the time. And I know you deal with women either going through a divorce or planning it. What do you see in the different stages? People who would like to be divorced, but maybe financially that's too challenging.
I have a gamut.
Yeah,
I
okay.
have folks, both men and women, that would like to get divorced that do not have access to the money.
Okay.
They don't know their rights. They don't know how to get out. And my $1 million question is, if you had $1 million today, would you leave? And they all say yes.
Wow.
Even if they
Wow.
have $1 million in the bank, they can't get it. They don't know how to get it. They don't have money to get to a place to stay, to fight with a lawyer for 6 months to get access to their money. And they stay. And they
Yeah.
stay.
Okay.
And they
Okay.
take less and less. And meanwhile, whoever the partner is has been stacking up the whole time. And what I see a lot is they stack up a whole lot, and this person down here does not understand about forensic accounting, and they have no idea where their money's been going all of these years, and then they get divorced.
Yeah.
And this, I helped him build his company. I helped him build his practice. I helped him raise these kids. I helped him do all these things, and he told me that he would. What do you have?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So you hear this a lot. And then with women who've gone through divorce, who find themselves in a situation where they really didn't know much about managing money, what's going on there?
Forced prenuptial agreements with a lack of understanding, a lack of legal representation, just a lot of lack of education. And then for the folks that have been in relationships that have been tumultuous, traumatic, there's not a lot of bandwidth left to give at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of folks give up the fight because it's just easier.
Yeah.
It's just easier. And I have seen people walk away from the homes that their parents built for them and the businesses that they have built up and pets, and because they don't know their options or they don't have access to options.
Yeah. And if somebody came to you and said, this is how I feel, I'm in that place that you just described, how can I muster up the energy to stay in this so that I do get what I deserve?
If they have a child, that's my spot for them.
Yeah.
I say, do you want your baby girl to know better, to be able to do better? Do you want your son to be able to have financial stability and freedom, right? They need you right now.
Yeah.
And so I will really lean in with as much enthusiasm, encouragement, link them to outside resources if they let me, as
Yeah.
much wraparound support as I can give. And it's men too. The men speak up less, but they are
Yeah.
absolutely out there. You know, same
Yeah.
thing. She runs my books. She always has. I'm not even going to ask her. I am afraid to ask her about money.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I can understand that.
Easier, they say it's just easier. It's just, and so they avoid again the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So it circles back to just not having these conversations and avoiding them. We they don't want to talk about it with their friends or the people outside the family, because I don't know, that's hard for people. It's very hard for people to admit anything negative about their finances, I find, because there's so much shame around that.
Absolutely. No, most folks aren't going to say, well, you probably weren't raised up in a household that really encouraged financial, wellness and understanding. They'd
Right.
say, well, why don't you have a budget? Well,
Yeah.
why don't you this? And why don't you that?
Yeah.
People have been telling me to get a budget for years. I'm just petrified. Just petrified. I don't know why. I help other people. We get them. But once we got over that fear piece, there's so much possibility and understanding, right?
Yeah.
Once you get that little bit of education, I hooked up with you right after a finance conference. I never thought finance would be so exciting, ever, until
Yeah.
I saw that I had options, that I
Yeah.
did not have to be on a hamster on a wheel for the rest of my life, that
Yeah.
there were options. But those ideas and understanding about finance, I never even had access to be in a room like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And wow. Yeah, finance, it permeates all of our lives from the beginning to the end. So of all the things to avoid knowing about or engaging in, that seems like not the one, but that's the society we live in, right? So it's been done wrong, and it really upsets me at this point because I see so many people, going through so much prolonged pain or drama or fear around something that it's like, we learn to drive a car. We have a whole process for that, and then the rest of our lives we're driving around. Like, that's how money should be. We should learn something about it, and then we're using it well for the rest of our days. Things happen. Our car breaks down, our money life can break down. But we know what to do when our car breaks down. I mean, it'd be the same with money. So it just really infuriates me that it's treated so differently when it's so important.
Yeah, you bring up a really valid point. I feel like people push their money and their finance down the road for later. I'm
Yeah.
going to work on that later. I'll get insurance later. And later shows right up at your doorstep.
Yeah. Yeah.
The years, they come for you.
I know. And yeah, later can definitely be too late. Like later, I don't know when that later is because we don't even define that. That's the thing. We have no definitions around any of this. We don't adequately define abundance. We don't adequately, which is different for everybody. We don't define our goals. That's the other thing I've really noticed with women and people in general. But our goals are so vague that they're meaningless. It's like, oh, I want to have a lot of money someday. I might like to have this vacation home. I want to be able to go on 2 trips a year. But none of it is put in dollars. None of it is put in timelines. It's just these vague dreams, which it's wonderful to have dreams. I'm not saying don't have dreams. I'm saying if they're real, if you really want those things, then again, there's a process for getting there. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And that's why, in therapy, we use SMART goals, which are time-based, measurable, achievable goals, right?
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to be, well, soon, maybe, sort of, could, should, all that stuff. No, when are we going to do these things? How are we going to get there? What does that look like? What do you need support-wise? Otherwise, we're just going to talk. And I don't like to just talk, even though I
Yeah.
talk for a living. I'm talking towards purpose, towards healing. If somebody wants a therapist that's going to listen to them cry for 2 more years, that's not me. If you've done your crying for 2 years, or you need to cry and push through some things, I'm the one for you.
Yeah.
Because it's like we've done this. keep people in therapy, if they're stuck. I don't want to teach you breathing techniques and coping skills. I want to talk about what got you stuck in the first place and what do you need to get out of that place so that you can absolutely thrive without me. Right?
I love that. And that's very appealing because I do think therapy has a little bit of a stigma around it where, yeah, I'm going to go and somebody's going to just listen to me talk for years. And I love therapy, so that's not my opinion, but I hear it from people, no, I don't want to go to therapy because this. So I love what you're saying because that is what people really need and want to change their lives. So tell me a couple of the stories that you've seen out there, in the world around money.
So what I think I was mentioning this earlier, I have the honor to work with the senior population, right? They're a part of our practice, and I love how much I learn from them, especially the women. So I've gotten a really up close look at what it was like for somebody in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when women finally got access to a bank account, when they could finally go and buy a house, right, without their husband, right? Before that, even if the wife made all this money and she saved it up and he didn't put a dime in, he could go and cash out her money. Yeah. It was just, and it wasn't that long ago. And so people had to fight for these rights. People had to fight for the ability for a woman to have a bank account. If you're listening, listen to that again, right? People had to fight for a right for us women to have our own bank accounts, to have our own mortgages. So I really think it's a responsibility piece at this point. It's our responsibility to get the education that we weren't given, to have a better understanding of the communication that goes around money so that it's not uncomfortable for our kids and their kids and their kids. Mm-hmm. I think it's important. If you weren't given the financial literacy, go and get it.
That's a great point. And yes, I can get on a big soapbox about how unfair it is that, for both men and women that we grow up without any financial training, et cetera. That said, you're absolutely correct. There's no shortage of information out there. It is that desire and that kind of commitment to going after it because it's frankly always been there, but now it's easier than ever to access, whether it's podcasts or, my gosh, my daughter, I can't tell you how many TikTok financial people she follows for better or worse. I don't know what that means, but, but we can learn. We can take courses online without leaving our house at this point. We can take full-on finance courses from the best universities if we want. That's not all applicable to our personal lives necessarily, but it's all there. And you're right. And I think as people, we have to just decide it's important enough to learn.
It really is. I have some adolescents and teens that come in, and I love it when I can just get my hands on them. They're like, how would you like to be a millionaire, kid? Right?
I know.
Find out about your money now, right?
Yeah.
Because imagine we get to them when they're that young and get them fired up, not afraid. They have all the potential in the world not to be stuck in a rut, right? If we can learn better, we can teach the generation coming up behind us better.
Yeah, and there is so much that they could learn and implement right away, and even just, gosh, when people have that much time ahead, oh, yeah, so easy to save or invest so little. It sounds big to them, but it's so little, and it'll go so far for their future. The trick is to get them interested in their future, because I just had this conversation with my daughter, and she said the same things at 25 that I was saying at 25, which is retirement. Yeah, that's really far away, and I'll worry about that later. So she is investing, however. So I guess
it's something stuck.
Something stuck. No, she's actually. I think she is taking some pride in learning about money and knowing about money because it is empowering. And I think that's what people. I mean, just like the women that you're talking about. Once you kind of get on that train and you start to see how much control you actually have, whether it's control over earning or spending or the debt you're accumulating or your savings, you really can, to go back to the car thing, take the driver's seat and start going down the road you want. And so I think you build momentum just by starting, and starting to have those conversations. And you can't have the conversations if you're not getting involved. So whether you're getting involved with a therapist or you're getting involved with a coach or a financial advisor or a tax accountant, I mean, once you start having the conversations, you continue to feel more confident having them. How much of this do you think is a confidence issue versus I don't, I'm always trying to unpack why we do the things that we do, and you see firsthand why people are doing what they do. So there's the avoidance, and there's the thing I hear a lot from, especially if you're working with older people. Partly it's too late, but partly, yeah, I never learned it, and now I'm kind of older. They feel sort of like it's too late for some reason, which it's not, but that's how they feel.
Yeah, I mean, they feel a lot of things that aren't facts, and they have been told a
Great
lot of
statement.
things that aren't facts, right? And we get this a lot, like, well, he told me I couldn't, and she told me I couldn't, and they believe this.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
believe this, so they really, I encourage people, go ask people, like you're saying, go have conversations, get just interested, inquisitive, help me understand this, help me understand that. And I would stay inquisitive in your partnership, in your marriage, the whole time. It's ask questions like, what do we want to do? How are we planning? Even if it's not retirement, practice planning together. Practice having that, well, she wants to save this much and I only want to save this much conversation, so that you can work through that.
Right.
Come to some agreement so that everybody is heard. That's really what it is, right? People want to be seen and heard and understood. And everybody should have that equality in that relationship. If you're curious, ask questions. If you don't feel comfortable asking questions, ask your therapist that question.
Have you ever had a money or career question you really wanted to ask, but didn't know who to go to or just felt uncomfortable even bringing it up? You're not alone. Talking about money can feel intimidating, even scary. And that's exactly what I'm trying to change. That's why I created a free virtual coffee chat, a casual, no pressure 20-minute conversation where you can bring one thing you're wrestling with and we'll talk it through. No judgment, no jargon, no sales pitch, just clarity, ease, and a real answer from someone who gets it. If you've got something on your mind, don't sit in the confusion. Book a spot at limitfreelife.com and let's sip and sort it out.
And what do you see, when people are afraid to ask questions or to rock the boat and they haven't gotten involved and then they want to get involved? Because I'm interested in this too, because sometimes I'm telling people, yeah, you need to sit down and have these kind of, weekly, monthly conversations with your partner about money. They're not doing it for a number of reasons. Most of them would fall into the category that a therapist would know more than me. They're either afraid to bring it up for whatever reasons, or maybe they, are intimidated by the conversation. How can somebody who feels that way get past that, and how can the other partner deal with it? Because the other partner isn't used to them asking questions either at some point.
Well, so that's the thing, right? If you don't have that inquisitive conversation in the beginning, it is going to be like, well, why are they asking me now? Why? And so if somebody is defensive and in a why state, and now all of a sudden you're asking questions, it maybe won't feel good for the other person.
Yeah.
Right? And we can't control that, right? We can say, I know I haven't asked a lot of questions in the past, but I think I want to get more involved. Easy, tactful, way in. What I would look out for is 100% deflection. Well, if we want to talk about money, let's talk about how much you're spending at Starbucks. I would double, triple check the books. find out what the passwords are, what the logins are, how much money is in there, and then start watching. It happens all the time. A fight ensues for deflection, and then the conversation doesn't get had.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of a red flag a little bit when somebody's deflecting like that.
Right? If somebody won't have a conversation with you, that's another, I kind of wonder why. Is there a better time? If you're not inquisitive from the beginning, I personally would take personal accountability. I know I haven't, because if you tell the other person, you haven't told me anything about our finances.
Yeah.
Why haven't you told me? Why don't I understand this? That's not going to go well either.
Yeah. Although I understand that there is that, why should I have to ask? He should be sharing with me these things, but.
Should, right? There's a book, right? There's a whole chapter of shoulds in there. Should, would, could. Those are, again, undefined, gray.
Yeah.
What is happening? Not what your feelings are. What are the facts? And stick with those facts. A lot of people don't ask questions because they don't want to upset anybody.
Yeah.
So they just keep the upset. And then they get sick, resentful, frustrated. Ask the question. I call them emotional push-ups. When we're doing things that are uncomfortable, because just like playing a guitar, going to the gym, the more you practice these things in repetition, the easier they get. Conversations about money and finance, the same.
Yeah. And it feels, when you were describing that scenario of people coming together and her asking and him responding, it just made me think about, there's a lack of trust there somewhere. And I don't know if that's just typical in relationships, that, at some point there you just stop trusting each other. But how does that happen? Like, how is that just another result of not having these conversations regularly?
I think the people's trusts get broken for a variety of reasons, right? And I think that connection is protection from a lot of things. If you could stay connected, stay talking about things, especially if they're uncomfortable things, talk about them until they're less uncomfortable. Because if this is your person, right, hopefully they're listening to understand how you feel, and they want to know that you feel secure. And typically a partner wants their partner to feel secure. So
In a good situation, yeah.
in a good way, right?
Right.
We can't control the other person's, outcomes or feelings, or if they get their feelings hurt. Regardless, it's still the person's responsibility to ask the questions. If you have questions, ask them.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing that you're making me think about is those times when you do ask a question and you get a weird response, and you just kind of like, this doesn't feel good to me, this feels like the wrong response, and it's making me feel bad, but I'm going to process for a while, and then you really don't come back to it, like if somebody comes back with, well, I make more money, so I need to be the one in charge, that kind of thing. And it doesn't feel good, but you kind of don't know how to come back from it, and then you just sort of leave it. How do you address these sort of bigger overriding beliefs that people have around what's important and what's not?
Because it varies so vastly in between every family system, right?
Yeah.
Different ways that people were raised, different values and beliefs and ideals. We cannot assume what the other person values in terms of your ability to make money, your ability to give of yourself. I have stay-at-home mothers that could have very well been multi-millionaires, but they saw their value as so much more than that because they chose to stay home with their child. And now she's got her husband telling her that she's got nothing in her retirement, that she's worthless, has brought no value, right? And so how do you measure worth? How do you measure value? And I think if you don't find that out in the beginning, right, it's going to come back later. Do you value me as a stay-at-home person? Do you value that as Because if somebody came in, I've done it for my clients a million times. We tally it all up. Professional this, professional home organizer, food shopper, his assistant,
That's
bookkeeping,
interesting.
right? All these things, they've added up to much more than his salary would, or her salary, whatever the case
Right.
may be.
Right.
But still, they're told your value is this. So therefore, your access to all of our money is also this sometimes. Or I'll tell you it like this. I will tell you how much you can spend of our money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's icky. And when people are real icky, it's work to get out of anything. And sometimes people say, well, it's just easier. I don't want to fight about it. It's been fine this far.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is that when they're saying that? What's going on in their minds?
Well, we have fight, flight, or freeze, which are trauma responses,
Yeah.
right? Typically that's not a fight back. That's not a fight back.
Yeah.
Run
Okay.
away from the problem, right? Or just freeze.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
go back. That's a trauma response.
So this is trauma when you're
Yes.
when you're spoken to in that way, or when you're told those kinds of things.
Depending on how the person was raised and their ability to understand what's going on inside of them, it can absolutely be traumatic for somebody to talk about their finances. If her mother never was allowed to talk about it, or else, she's probably not going to talk about it unless there's a huge shift in her understanding and their relationship, that it's not going to be the way it was for her growing up.
Right. Right.
But we have to talk.
Yeah.
And I've got people, their husband is buying bottled water and toilet paper, and they've been married 20 years. But that's what he decided way back then. So he's just been buying bottled water and toilet paper, and that's his contribution to the home.
Wow.
And they were going to talk about it, and they were, and now we've just got all this resentment. And this husband, that's his sole contribution is toilet paper and water.
Yeah, well, that's the word, resentment, because all this is going to do is build up that resentment. And to your point about talking, I had a therapist a long time ago who my husband and I were seeing her, and we weren't talking about some important things. And she said, you need to do these little timeouts or whatever where you each have a chance to talk. And she said, if you don't do that on a regular basis, you're basically building this wall of resentment, and it's getting bigger and bigger and harder to get through. And that stuck with me. This was like 20 years ago, but I always remembered that because I do see it that way. Like that wall of resentment is only going to get bigger if you aren't communicating. And
Yeah.
it won't be
It's a
good.
great visualization. The more time goes by, the more bricks are stacking up between you. And if there's
Yeah.
not that connection, you will get further and further apart. And it does get harder and harder to talk about something.
Yeah. Well, and it's
And
interesting because simultaneously it's getting harder and harder to split if you find you want to, because you're
yes.
realizing that you don't have any power and you don't know enough.
Oh, yeah. We would need a whole other podcast to
Yeah,
talk about the
which
split.
we can do. Yeah, that is a whole other podcast actually, because that is such a hurdle in so many ways to figure out how to split up when somebody doesn't know very much about their money, or the other person is, trying to hide things, or won't talk about things. So, wow. Okay, Bonnie. We could go so many directions here. Why don't we go towards some positive things that people can actually, do? So what I'm hearing so far is the communication piece is extremely important, and it's important from the beginning and throughout. It's not like have a bunch of conversation at the beginning of your relationship and then just live happily ever after. Like you have to keep communicating about this.
Yes. Yes, please
Yeah.
do. I say it about therapy when I'm talking to the men that come in. I'll say, you've done really good, and we're gonna discharge you today. You don't need to come every week. You're doing great. You've hit all your goals. But therapy can be like an oil change for your car, right? You don't just stop servicing it. So if you need a tune up in your marriage, or you need a tune up on something, right? Remember,
Right.
you still have to change your oil filter. You have to change your oil. You have to change your spark plugs, and that sits with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't take care of itself. You have to service things, mind, body,
Right.
spirit, finances, relationship, all of it. If you
Yeah.
don't use it, you lose it, right? And if you don't develop it, I don't know. I don't know how to
No,
end that
I, I,
sentence. You
I, I
have to keep your
agree.
car tuned up.
Yeah, you definitely do. And, you mentioned that women too have to take some agency over learning about money. I mean, that's not hard to do. You don't need anybody's permission for that. You can just do that. Um, and, what about the people who, I guess it is a trauma response. If you feel triggered when you go to sit down and ask your partner something about money, that is probably, you can say it is or it isn't, but an indication that there is some trauma there. If you feel afraid to ask a question, or yeah,
I would say your body's always talking to you, right? So if your heart is racing or your palms are sweaty, what's it telling you? It's reminding you of a time something else happened that this is coming up. Not to get in too deep, but your body is talking to you. If you feel uncomfortable, it's just telling you something. And maybe just pause and reflect, right? Listen, what is it telling me? Why do I have these feelings? And remember that your feelings aren't facts, right? And people
yeah,
could be nervous because they're doing something new that they haven't done before. It doesn't
right,
mean that it's a red flag or a trauma response, right? It could be excitement. People will call anything anxiety,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be anxiety provoking. We have more to understand. We're excited about something different. It's new, right? If you try something new, sometimes you have these feelings. It doesn't mean they're negative. They won't be this intense the next time or the next time. Do some writing, ask a friend, turn into your show and get some financial advice. I'm sure there's a million things that we have access to now, even ChatGPT,
I
right?
know.
My heart's fluttering when I think about finance. What is that?
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the library anymore. There's no excuses.
No, it's so
Done.
simple. Yeah. Okay. So that's great. And, I love that you brought up anxiety, because we're all like trying to avoid anxiety. I feel like anxiety is a part of life. I mean, maybe you just get to an age and you just realize, but not that it's fun. But I also don't think it's always something to run away from. I think and I've seen a TED talk on this where there's like the good stress and the bad stress, and the good stress is actually stress, but it's pointing us to do bigger things. I know, you do a lot of speaking, so was there ever stress around getting out there and starting to speak? And I mean, that wasn't stress telling you to run away from doing it. It was stress, maybe, if you even had it.
I mean, fear and security, right? Like, who's going to book you? Nobody's going to call you, right? Just negative self-talk. And then I have to take back my reins and say, I don't need you, negative self-talk. And
Yeah.
it's not up to me. It's up to the universe. I could waste my worry all day long. That's not up to me. It's not up to me. I have figured out that even if I fail forward. I do not have to make the same mistake twice. And I do not have to worry about it. It's not up to me to worry about. That's not helping anything. I think
Yeah.
we're in a society right now that we have so much just coming at us that our body was not designed to handle.
Yeah.
Our body was not designed to handle all of the things that are flooded, dopamine, crash, our energy drinks and all this stuff, and just body, mind, spirit, what food we eat, right? It's all interwoven, but we were not meant to have this much at us, on us, at once, right? So I feel like this baseline, most folks' anxiety levels are a little bit higher than they used to be.
Right. Well, and
But
that's another great point around money, is we don't want to be reactive with money either. We want to be in a good headspace when we make financial decisions, or when we are having these conversations with somebody. And so there's kind of like, how do we calm ourselves down and put ourselves in the right energy and the right mindset to even do, because you can certainly get into an almost immediate argument when you're talking to somebody about money, if you're, depending on what your own state is.
and mindset about money, value, and worth again.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
some folks have a scarcity mindset regardless of how much they have made and accumulated, because whatever, a lot of times it's going to go back to the apple in the tree, some unmet childhood need that is not getting filled by the boat and the second house and the cars and all the things. So they just keep accumulating things and stuff,
Right.
but they still don't feel actual wealth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, which is another whole show that we could do on
You need more
the
time.
psychology of spending and just spending to feel good and all of that. I would love to have you do a part two here, actually. This is just so good. Before we wrap up, I just want to hit on something that you brought up, which is such an important thing with money, and that is your self-talk. Because we can say some really horrible things about who we are with money and what's possible for us with money. And I think just being aware of that, and do you see that as well? People just coming in and saying, "I'll always be broke. I'll always be in debt." Like, okay, yeah,
Yes, yes. A lot of brokenness when folks first start, and not everybody, but a lot of people have been whittled down to the place that they believe what has been told to them, whether it was their mother or their father or their partner, right? Whatever it was, just whittled down their idea of self-worth, self-esteem, value, ability, even educational ability. We've got women that are geniuses and their partner told them how dumb they were so many times that they really think they can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
So letting some of that fog go away, doing some emotional push-ups, and letting people feel those little baby SMART goals that we set for them. Because when we make time-based goals, right? Like, you save $1 this week, you should see their faces. Oh, my skin is lighting up. When they have been able to save whatever it was. I have a lady who had to save like $10. It was the
Yeah.
biggest deal when she could save $10 to go do her event. Nobody had told her about finances, about saving money, about putting a house together, managing a house, finances. Nobody taught a lot of people how to adult.
Right.
There's no shame in that. Like, go and get it though. It's not too late. It's never too late.
It is never too late. I love that you're working with seniors because you hear a lot of things, and honestly, it is never too late. I mean, might be too late for some things. It might be too late to become an
Yeah,
adult,
like to
but-
save up to be wealthy, it might be
Yeah.
too late. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you can always get educated about it, and you can always learn a better way to talk to yourself about things.
Yeah, thank you. I do think that's one of people's, a really important thing for me, for everybody, is to just watch your self-talk and reframe it, listen to
I
yourself.
would encourage folks to put some yets in there, right?
Oh, explain that.
Right, because maybe you don't have the ability to, whatever your goal is. I don't have $1 million yet. I don't know how to estate plan yet. I don't know how to whatever yet. And I say that even when people say, well, do you know such and such? I say, well, not yet, but when you introduce me, I will.
Yeah.
Just that forward thinking with your yets, because then it's not I will never. It's just I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Put some
Oh, I love that.
positivity in there. There is hope. There really, really is.
Yeah, and you're a very positive person, which I kind of love in a therapist, because I don't always see that. And I think, even what you showed here today, your ability to see opportunity and possibility for people is really important, because if they can't see it themselves, it's really very valuable to have somebody on their side who can. So can you tell us, Bonnie, how people find you, work with you? I know you're, you can explain it, because I know you're in Florida, but what does that mean?
I am in Florida. We are Papillon Health and Wellness for psychotherapy, and my nonprofit is Bridges to Wellness that we're launching to support veterans and seniors. You can find us at B2Wellness. I'll put it on .org or papillonhealthandwellness.com, and these are long titles, so we'll put it in there.
They'll all be in the show notes. So
It'll be in the show notes, and if anybody has questions about safety, security, their mental health, wellness, we will do coaching, consulting, training, train organizations, groups, businesses, whoever. I'm trying to get into these high schools so I could talk to these kids.
Yeah, that would be so fabulous. I love that.
Yeah.
And also you're a speaker. So
I am. Yeah, we've done some international speaking now and some
nice.
domestic speaking now. So
Wonderful. Yeah.
it's a yet thing, right? I met you in a class about speaking, and then
Yeah.
here we are, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. So, okay. Well, and can people who are not residents of Florida, can they work with you? That's always a question with therapists. I never understand whether
So
that's
I'm
possible.
gonna say I would love to. Let me see how I can. Right? Some people I can. Like if you just want a psychotherapist and you're in California and I'm in Florida, I can't do that yet. But
Yeah.
I have a girl.
Okay. 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 Well, and any other ways that people can just hear from you? Any blogging or any?
I have my LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook,
Right.
Instagram. I can give you those things also.
Yeah,
We
I'll
will
put
have
those
a
all in there.
podcast here soon, so I'll give you that information when we get that.
Right. Okay. Well, Bonnie, thank you so much for joining me here. I will be calling you for another one because there's just way too many. We like touched on things that need whole shows to themselves. So, but thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and you bring, great expertise to the show and just such a great personality. So I love talking to you. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.
Okay, good. And audience, thank you ever so much for being here, listening to the Money and You podcast. Please share this show with your friends who you think can benefit. There's a lot here, so it's a great show to re-listen to. And if you want to rate and review the show, we always appreciate that. That helps us so much. And you can find us on all the podcast platforms and on the Limit Free Life YouTube channel. So thank you so much. Thank you, Pod Experience, for putting on the show and helping us out so very much here. And we'll see you next week.